Hi, and welcome to this Oracle Analytics workflow that we're going to talk about today. We're using Oracle Analytics Cloud to discuss how we move from the beginning of the process, right at the where the data is, all the way through data processing, manipulation, to the visualizations, the dashboards, and then on to actually making decisions. Everything in a consistent and unified workflow. As we said, the questions, Q&A, please put them in the Q&A little app, and we'll be able to answer those as we move through the different slides and demos. So today with me, I have Nick Engelhardt, who will be demoing most of the live product. Today, the product is indeed live. It's myself, Barry Mostert, and I'll be setting up the introduction, doing the Q&A, and I'll come back and show you some of the art of the possible of what you can do with Oracle Analytics Cloud at some point. With me as well is Blair Bozada, who will be also on the Q&A helping out with that. So at any time, any questions, please put them in the Q&A and we will try and address those as soon as we can. So let's get straight into it. As for the agenda today, we're going to start with this little PowerPoint. I mean, there's only 5 slides, and then I just want to set the context of Oracle Analytics. We then have an introduction to the user interface and what some finished examples might look like. And really the point about the whole thing is to tell a story using data. So how do we use these data visualizations to really get those data stories together so you can present your case? And built into the product, not separate, and the same cost is data preparation and enrichment. So unlike other products, you don't have to buy it as a separate tools. And what we're going to be talking about is how you do not have to export to Excel, which is insecure and introduces human errors. We have a trackable, auditable, and repeatable process built in. And then we'll go into the self-service data modeling. So how does a normal user get access to siloed sources, bring them together, blend that information for a consistent view? And of course, everything today is all about machine learning AI. So how do we do machine learning for that citizen data scientists? So that is for people that understand the business and the data, but don't necessarily understand a lot about the models or the coding associated with those. So how do we democratize machine learning for everyone? And then we'll go into some next steps. So moving on quickly, just a brief introduction of the platform. So as we said, we're looking at everything from data to decision. So starting on the very left, you can see that we do support just about all of the major data sources. And the main thing to think about is that the misnomer is that Oracle is for Oracle, and that Oracle is only for the Oracle apps. That's not the case. It's never been the case. It is FUD that's spread by competitors, really. And we have everything that's big here. And if you don't have any of these, we have a JDBC connection for legacy sources too. So once you've hooked up your data sources, of course, you can connect. You get live data access. So it's real-time connections to those base sources. You're able to federate those queries, blend data from all of those different sources together. And then once you have your data connected, it's really about in most cases, sometimes you would then think about how do I export this to Excel? Because I need to go to Excel to fix the data or clean the data. Well, that's what we don't want to do, because as soon as you do that, you introduce a whole bunch of risk. So instead, we're going to prepare the data directly in the same platform. So you'll be able to do data flows, you'll be able to do some profiling, you can do some cleaning up of that information, you create new columns, create computed items, you can do all those kind of things right here. And once you have your model all built out and you have your data set ready to go, then you can really start the exploration process. Dive into the data using some of the one-click analytics to spot trends and clusters and little patterns that you might not otherwise have seen. You can start to build your reports, have the ML explain different fields to you to understand how they fit in context of everything else. And then once you've found some insights and you've started to begin building your story, you can share that out to your colleagues and whoever else might be using that, and you can produce a different kind of options and either PDFs, or you can create your workbooks, and we'll show you some of those today. And then finally, that consumption level, once you have produced those stories, there's a way that you just have a consumer interface that we just kind of absorb the information so that users that aren't necessarily savvy in building the things or understanding the data models can still consume the data. It's kind of our read mode of doing things. So just to look at the higher concept of what we have in terms of Oracle Analytics, we have a few products. On the left-hand side is the platform products. So these are the build it yourself. You give you the platform and you start. And we have an option for cloud and we have an option for on-premises. So Oracle Analytics Cloud is the flagship that we lead with, and it's in the cloud. Oracle Analytics Server gets an annual update. It is the on-premises version. It is very, very similar to Oracle Analytics Cloud. It just is a few releases behind, but it catches up once a year. And there's only a few minor features that are cloud related that aren't included. Otherwise, they are very much the same. On the right-hand side, we are not going to be looking at that today too much. These are the Fusion application options and the NetSuite option. So these are our sort of more SaaS options. These are the buy options. So if you buy Fusion Data Intelligence Platform or NetSuite Analytics, you're going to get that with all the models, the ETL, and the reports and everything out of the box. And just before I finish, this is the last slide. The other misnomer is Oracle is so expensive. You know, that was the days of on-premises. I mean, that was 10, 15 years ago. You can start today with everything that we're going to show you today for $162 per month for 10 users. The edition is the professional edition, and I think that's all we're going to be using today as well. So really, for $162.30 a month, you can have 10 users to get going. And this is from the website. So if you get that URL, we're not making this up, although we're marketing. This is real. Just go on the website and you can get it yourself. And at that point, I am going to hand it over to Nick, and he is going to take it from here.
Great. Thanks, Barry. So one quick rebuttal. We are showing the Enterprise Edition today. There's only 2 features that will have that. I'll make sure to point that out, or Barry, you can make sure to point that out as we go through it. But essentially what you're going to see today is, 95% is available in Professional Edition. So just wanted to clarify that. So this is the home page when you come in and log into Analytics, Oracle Analytics Cloud. This is where you can customize things. You can see all your different artifacts that are available for you. One of the things today I will like to go back and forth to, and it is in the links for you as well, is part of what we have on our oracle.com webpage for the analytics platform is something called the Capabilities Explorer. So one of the things that's going to happen today is this sort of high-level tour is going to be all about trying to cover very lightly a lot of these various categories, whether it's around, connecting, modeling, data visualization. So we'll kind of come back and forth to this. And this is where after the fact, if you want to come in and read this on your own, as well as, see some videos or learn more about the documentation that's available to you here. Okay, so let's just start by, definitely now, kind of conversational interfaces are a way a lot of people want to interact with their data. So we can go ahead and just start with visualizing within our environment here. Today we're going to kind of be looking at sort of product profitability and things related to that, as well as employee attrition. So let's go ahead, and we've heard something about our product profitability around sort of shipping. So let's go ahead and just start typing, profit and shipping costs by ship mode and product category, and shift enter. And now what we're doing is, just without, again, understanding, necessarily where the data is, how to query the data, we're getting some quick results back. Here we can kind of see a scatter chart of showing our shipping cost by our profit. We can see, over here, we don't have, very good profitability, and we have high shipping costs when we're shipping furniture. Kind of makes sense. And, over here, we can see that, we have pretty good profitability with our technology, and when we ship it regularly with air. So again, we can come in here and, see information on that. Again, we have another scatter chart here. If we don't like the fact that it's a scatter chart, we can come in here, and change it to something as, standard old table. So again, we can see our shipping costs and profit by our ship mode. And we see other things here around things. And if we wanted to, and say like this one's a one we want to kind of keep an eye on, we could go ahead and create what's called a watch list. We won't do that today here. But let's go ahead now, and this actually sounds like something that's interesting for us. Let's go ahead now, and beyond just interacting with it here sort of on our desktop, let's go ahead and use this as a basis to start our analysis. So let's go ahead, and we're going to click there. Okay, now we're in our workbook environment, and we're going to be in and out of this environment today. This is not going to solely be about visualization. And that's probably an important point. If we go back to Barry's slide, we're really trying to describe the overall analytic workflow, not just sort of what happens on the glass. Being a practitioner along with Barry, and if folks that are out there, are also, practitioners with analytics, you realize that oftentimes you spend, 80% of your time trying to get to this wonderfully curated data set, and then you go ahead and do the visualizations. We're starting with that, and we're going to kind of work back and show you all the other pieces that are available natively without having to license them as part of the Oracle Analytics platform. So here we can see, if we go from left to right, this is our data panel. So this is where we're going to see information about the data sets, the one or more data sets are available. In this case here, when we did our natural language query, it brought back a data set called sample orders and has information again about our orders here. It has that visualization we started with. This is where we can see the available visualizations for us, both out of the box, as well as the visualizations that you can create through our custom SDK. This is where we can apply advanced analytics with one click. Barry's going to show you that, and then some advanced techniques that we are not covering today. On the second panel here, this is both our grammar and property panels. This is where each one of the visualizations will have unique options that we can put in various measures, which are these pound or hash signs, or attributes, which are the aids, or the clocks, which are specific to temporal or time-based. And then this is where, with visualization, right, everybody wants everything customized. So this is our property panel. And this is really where you're going to see a rich set of capabilities to change things from text alignments to fonts. We're going to touch on a couple of these today. We don't have a lot of time to do that. But now you can see then on the right-hand side, this is where you have one or more visualizations. We started with one. Visualizations live on one or more canvases. And if we wanted to, we can give ourselves more or less real estate. Okay, so the first thing we can do, obviously with the visualization, is we can go ahead and let's go ahead and duplicate it, because we have what we want here. So edit, duplicate the visualization, and let's just go ahead and change the visualization type. Again, let's just type something like a table there, and we can see there's also some formatting from color perspective in terms of where the product category is. We can go ahead and create our own visualizations. Let's say we just want to understand, we're looking at shipping costs. So we could do, again, we could take ship mode, drag it and drop it. Again, this is a highly interactive environment, and I can take my ship cost, drag it and drop it here. And let's say now I want to, again, look at that kind of a contribution perspective. Let's go ahead and change that to a donut. I can move things around. So now I can have it more visually interesting here. So I can see the percentages of ship cost. We'll go ahead and just change one of these properties really quickly to show you how that works. Come over here. Let's go ahead and we can decide to turn the total off. We can change the data labels from percents. We can actually add the values in here as well. We want to see this a little bit better. Again, this is all resizable, movable. Again, now we're interacting with this data set. Something else to notice here is we have this little light bulb over here. This is our auto insights. So one of the things that is part of that analytic workflow that you saw from Barry is this notion of having the ability to help augment you in your discovery of your data. So here's an example of a data set that we attach to through a natural language query. We've kind of created our own queries to understand how things relate. But if we come over here and open up Auto Insights, this is where now this data set's been profiled, and it's going ahead across various sort of measures and dimensions, again, which we can customize here, deciding what things we want to look at or not look at. Let's just go ahead and for today, because again, we're doing the high level overview. Let's go ahead and, bring in a data set on growth contribution. I think this is, interesting, seeing kind of our profit across our regions. I'm going to bring that in. here's the ability to see some, clustering, automatic clustering around cities. Barry's going to show you a little bit more on this, on some advanced analytics stuff when he shows you the art of the possible in a little bit here. So let's go ahead and close that down. And now you can go ahead and you can see that. So this is top of the glass. This is just coming right in, not adding my own data set and doing some quick analysis on that. Let's go ahead now and actually create now another set of analysis, but using our curated data. So the one place we talked about, where I mentioned that this is not included in the professional edition, is we have something called a semantic layer. So this is where IT can curate and maintain the enterprise, metrics and attributes that everyone knows they're reporting on and have consistent, reliable, truth and numbers. So we're going to go ahead and click create. This is where we can see the assets that are available for us. We're going to go ahead and click and create our own new workbook again. Now, a workbook is composed of one or more data sets. Important concept is a workbook can have any data set in it. They don't have to be related. If they're related, then you can interact with these related data sets. If not, they can exist in parallel. So let's go ahead and we're going to go ahead and look at the performance of our business. And we're going to go ahead and we've been told again that there's some problems with profitability. So what we want to do is we want to understand sort of our product profitability, but initially at our product type. So we can just go ahead, and if we just go ahead and double click on product type, we can go ahead now and we can see from here, these are the product types that are available, again, coming from our curated semantic model that's managed by IT. So let's go ahead now and we can open up these folders and we can see the various metrics that are available for us. We can go ahead and again, just double click on profit ratio. So now what's happening is we saw the same thing here. Our grammar panel's changing, our visualization's changing. If we don't like the auto-generated visualization, we can come in here and change it. And we've seen our familiar now pie chart. So, I'm sorry, donut. And, what we can do here is we can go ahead and add additional information to this chart. So even things that aren't, part of this, if we want to go ahead and let's say, understand what our profit value is, we can add that. And that can show up here. And let's say we also want to look at both our fixed cost and our variable cost. Okay, so now we have that as part of the visualization. It's kind of a dense form of information that we can have here. Let's go now and we can see that audio is definitely underperforming. So we want to go and get a handle on understanding, why that might be the case. So let's go ahead and create another visualization. Again, we're going to go ahead and take profit ratio. We're going to create it differently this time. We're going to take profit ratio. We're going to take product. I'm going to multi-select it. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to pick our month. And now when I drag and drop it, come over here, I got a line chart. Now I have all the products here. We only want to see the products for audio types. Let's come over here. Let's change this to be a filter and go ahead and now just select audio. And now we can understand the performance of that. And definitely we can see that we're having some profitability problems, especially around our micropod 60 GB. Okay, so one of the things that we've been told, and one of our colleagues, is they gave us a spreadsheet on orders that are on hold from our order system. So we need to incorporate that data set here. So that data set's available to me as an Excel file. So I'm going to go ahead and add a data set in here. And we're going to actually do something called blending. Add that in. And we're going to do create data set. And what we're going to do is we're going to bring it from a local file. We'll show you about connections later. And you can see here my on hold orders. That up. So now this is part of the analytic workflow where even though we have curated information from IT, we don't always have everything. And here we can see where the channel was, the fact that it's on hold, and what we know our data, and we know that that's the product code that we're going to want to join to. So we're going to go ahead and click OK. Now, before we can go and do that, what we need to do is go ahead and do just a little quick sort of data enrichment here. Now, we're going to see this panel a couple more times. This is where, as part of the analytic workflow, as Barry was talking about, instead of doing things in Excel, we're going to do them inside of the platform itself. Again, from the left, this is where we're going to see the steps. So these are sort of, think about like formulas that you might be doing inside of Excel. Every time this file gets reloaded, these steps get run. Guess what? That's great. So if I leave, Barry can inherit this. He can understand my logic. We have a bit of an audit trail here. Again, we're not doing it inside of Excel. So we get a quick histogram, and we're going to go into this deeper in another step here. But for this file, we can just, again, quickly see, an overview of the various columns, what the values are, if there's some things missing. We're going to go ahead and heal that in another step. In this case here, though, what we do know, because we know our data, is that our item key, which is the product code in our inventory system, does not have the P dash in it. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on here, and we're going to extract, because it's been semantically profiled. So the system went and realized that I can see a pattern of a character with a dash and then a numeric. So I understand that there's probably two parts to this column. So we're going to go ahead and just pick that. Now we're going to get our product code that we're going to be actually able to blend, or what some people may call joining on. So let's go ahead and save this data set. And we'll just call it on hold orders. Click OK. Okay, we're done. We'll come back to our workbook. There's our on hold orders. Add that to the workbook. And now we just have one more thing to do. We're going to come to our data. And this is now, again, part of our analytic workflow. We brought in this new data set. We need to have a relationship between our curated area and our newly joined data set. If the column names were the same, we would auto join them, but usually life is not that convenient. So let's go ahead and create a blend or relationship between the two. So we're going to go ahead and add a match. So on hold orders, we know that we have our newly formed item key. And on here, we understand, again, our information, and we're going to pick our product key and click OK. And now you can see that we have those two together. We can come here now, and if we notice here now, we have both our sample app and our on-hold orders. And now what we can do is we can actually use our corporate curated product hierarchy. Remember, we interacted with that earlier here, where we can see we have things down at the item key. But if we wanted to look at sort of product types and how they are on hold, what revenue is at risk for being on hold, again, we could grab those two and create another visualization by dropping at the bottom here. And now we can quickly see, even though we didn't have product type available for us as part of the data set from our order entry system, that we can actually understand that from a curated perspective. So I'm going to pause there really quick. That's a really, really high level overview of sort of some of the data visualization capabilities. Is really deep. I guess one of the questions that we wanted to ask, if we can run a poll question here, is maybe understanding the composition of folks that have decided to spend some of your time today on this event. So question is, are you currently an Oracle Analytics customer? And then the second one, because everybody's talking about it, which is it helps us kind of guide what some of our future content is going to be, is, are you using ML today? And by the way, not sure is perfectly fine answer. All right, so this is awesome. So
So Nick,
Um,
while you're going into this, as we're waiting for the poll to complete, can you just explain a bit about the roles of the people that would be doing what you just did versus maybe a consumer?
well, well, the roles in terms of, who's doing it. I mean,
Yeah, who's
anybody
modeling?
who's, go ahead, Barry.
Yeah, who's the person that is modeling versus people that are consumed? Would you expect an exec to kind of do this versus an analyst?
I would never expect an exec to do what I might expect an exec to have a conversational interaction with their data, like we showed in the beginning, and with coming advances in generative AI, large language models, some of the things that we've kind of talked about in our cloud world keynotes as well as press releases. There's some really exciting stuff that's happening there that I think is going to really help to democratize analytics even more. But there's still always going to be the need for people that are kind of sort of analysts. Now, whether they are analysts, living in the line of business, we have a lot of those folks, at Oracle, and we have the largest instance of Oracle Analytics Cloud with, thousands of users using it on a daily basis, and a big chunk of what they do is in what I showed here, as well as what we're going to show next, sort of in the analytics workflow. So we've ended the poll here. It looks like we have a good split between people who are Oracle customers and not. So if you're not an Oracle customer, but we really do have a very competitive analytics platform for the analytics workflow, by demonstrated within, what you're seeing here, as well as, our analysts reviews. Very typical on the ML here in terms of a lot more people are not using it or not sure than are actually using it. So I think that's actually great to see. Okay, so that is sort of a very high level of sort of, again, initial data visualization, data blending. We're at the bottom of the hour here, Barry. Do we want to, now that I've shown this, can we do a quick, what we call the art of the possible? Because, give you a kind of a very quick understanding of, with some more advanced techniques and knowledge and experience, what you can actually deliver as part of sort of the end consumption result.
Sure.
Over to you, Barry.
So what I've got here is actually the Oracle Analytics public demo environment. So I'm going to stick, after I've done this link into the chat. And when you come into this, you don't need to log in. There's no credit card trials to see these demos. You'll just get this public instance. Once you hit this URL, you will appear over here. And you'll see that there's a number of different projects that we've made available to you. It's a read-only interface, so you can't do everything that Nick did, but you do get to see a bunch of different pre-built demos that you can play with, some fancy graphic ones, some more kind of finance, boring, typical pie charts and stuff, but a full kind of spectrum of some of the capabilities within different things with different themes. So you should definitely have a play with this in your own time after this event. And again, I'll stick that link into, or Blair might be able to stick that link into the chat when we're done with this. So I'm going to move into some live demos here just to give you an example. So Nick was talking about creating a demo and then extending it slightly with what we call some one-click advanced analytics. So what I have here is a chart showing the revenue historically for several product lines that you can see on the side there. Now, what I want to do is predict the sales after this date. So to predict sales, all I have to do is come up to the top left-hand corner, and you see there's a little icon that is now called the Advanced Analytics, which is really some of the built-in ML capabilities. And all I have to do is, of the 5 kind of algorithms I've got, I'm going to choose forecast. I can double click it, or I can just drag it onto my chart. And by dragging on the chart, you see, boom, there's my forecast already created. And by default, it's given me the next 3 periods. So it's extended beyond September, which was our last one, and it's gone through to nearly the end of November. And I can easily say, well, look, I want to look at the next 6 periods. And boom, it'll just calculate those next 6 periods based on this history for each of the product lines. And you'll see the little grayed area is the indication of the predicted values. And you can see what it's doing is it's actually taking all the numbers that are on the chart, passing it back for calculation, and then it will render the predictions right away when it comes back. And on the bottom, I have another option. So while that one's calculating, oh, there we go. So now it's got the next 6 periods. And so that was nice and easy. And at the bottom, what I'm going to do is clustering. Another kind of a form of ML is to do this, to figure out where the clusters are. Actually takes a bit of machine learning. So I'm going to go up to the clusters here. And because I've got a scatter chart, I'll just drag that onto my scatter chart here, and it'll perform the clustering, or I can just double click it. And you can see what it's done is it's figured out that it's given me 5 clusters using the k-means algorithm. And you can choose a number of groups you would like. So I can see now I have a group of triangles and some group of circles and things. But I could also say, well, if I don't like k-means, well, maybe I want to do it by the hierarchical algorithm. And so we have a bunch of different algorithms pre-built in. But the idea is that business users can come in and start to use ML. So a bunch of you said you've never used AI ML in your analytics. Well, it could be as easy as starting with something like that. And the next thing to do, which is also AI, in fact, is to use natural language generation. So if I want a narrative of this chart, I can just select it, control copy, control paste, and I have duplicated the chart. All I have to do now is come to my chart types. And these are all the chart types that are built in. And actually of the analytics products, you can check some of the analyst reviews. We have the most built charts of all analytics products on the market. So we can come down now to the little speech bubble, and that is natural language generation. And what it again does is it takes the values, passes it to our natural language generator. And you can see now it's giving me a narrative in natural language describing this chart. So if you've ever had to go and write one of those financial reports where you have to explain what you see, well, most of the work is going to be done for you now. You might just have to copy and paste and tweak this, but you're done. Also, if the chart changes and your data updates, your natural language narrative is updates in real time along with the visual. By selecting this, I can actually also look at the verbosity. I can change it from a trend to a breakdown. Breakdowns are usually a little bit more simple, or I can go back to the trend and I can use this little verbosity slider, and I can reduce the amount of text that it gets, and you have full control on that. I'm going to slide it right up. And the next thing I'm going to show you is the translation capabilities, because once you have all that text, if I don't want it in English, I want it in French, I can just do that. And through AI, of course, you go, and for those of you who can read French, you'll get it in a second. Bang, it's in French. So that's how easy it is to kind of start to use some of those capabilities built into the product. These are like, we treat NLG as if it was a pie chart. It's a first-class object that is not an extra add-in or a plugin or anything like that. Moving on, some of the other examples we have here. This is a cost management analytics, typical finance dashboard, and we can do all these kind of standard-based dashboards that you truly expect of products. But we can do it in such a way that we have a nice narrative to tell a story by switching through these little icons on the bottom. But the idea is, let's look at something different. Here we have spatial analytics, and of course, spatial is built into it as well. But this spatial analytics is not of a map of a countries or a city. This is a supermarket, and we are looking at how people are moving within the supermarket by time. So on the right-hand side here, I have my times and the number of people that were in store at those times, a classical bar chart. But let's see how they move. At the morning, and then 6 to 9 a.m., there are a lot of people up in the cafe area. And then as I move to the noon, you see they're kind of more spread out. And as I go through the day, during lunchtime, they're back in the cafeteria. And what this does is it really helps you start to see where the traffic flow goes in a visual way. Much better way of doing things than actually trying to gain those insights from an Excel sheet or from a classic chart. These charts don't give you that information. Now I can start to shift goods from areas that are dark or have less traffic into more higher traffic areas if you need to move those products. Or you can start to think about pushing promotions into the dead areas to bring people towards those spaces. And much easier to get proper business decisions based on something more in reality. The next one here, we have a thing called document understanding. So this has been integrated with an OCI service, and the OCI service is called AI Vision. AI Vision is able to look at different images, and not AI Vision, this is AI Document Understanding, is able to look at images and extract different information and show it up here. So these are all samples, by the way, and these aren't real. But you can see the information has been extracted from the passport image and put into this box. And as I shift through, I can see Gabby's status is green and his information has been brought through. Brendan's over here. Brendan's red, so we're going to decline him entry to wherever we're going. So very cool kind of way of bringing this in. This is also works for receipts. So if you wanted people to scan receipts, it can extract that information so you can really start to see what people are spending and how. Another option is this one, which is a different kind of view of how to present information. This is Brazilian weather data. On the top one, we're looking at temperature, and the bottom is humidity over an entire year. So you can see starting at the beginning of the year, the average temperature is going to kind of high. And then as we move through, it starts to get cooler. And this is when you get into winter. It's kind of the coldest period right before the heat comes again. The interesting part is how that reflects on the humidity. And you can see that the humidity is very wet when it's warm. And as the temperature begins to cool down over winter, humidity decreases and you get the dry period just as we run into summer. The hottest part of the summer in the beginning is also the driest. And then towards the end of summer, it starts to rain. So now you can plan your vacation pretty well using some information. And if you're wondering what all these other pieces are that are like errors, well, no data is perfect. Whoever was supposed to record the values that day and put them in the system was obviously sick or away. And these are basically just holes in the data. The last one I'm going to show you is how we integrate something in a slightly different way. You can get some real controlled capabilities on the dashboards in terms of graphics and fine tuning. Here we have a graphic around an eye, and on the iris, it's actually plotted some maps. And these are about iris scans. So we can actually start to look at using iris scans for security purposes. And it's actually showing you the different points that it's analyzed and recorded for those security features. And so for that, I'm going to hand it back to Nick, and I'll paste that demo link into the chat. Oh, and I see Blair's already done it there. So you can connect to that and look at it anytime.
Yeah. Hey guys, we did have a question come in around what's available for mobile. I don't know if we want to take a minute or two just to talk about that before we dive into the next portion.
Well, sure. We have dedicated mobile applications for both iOS and Android. And I don't know, are they referenced on the Capabilities Explorer? Could be. Yeah, our mobile applications here. So this is really where you can come in and collaborate and work with your colleagues. We'll also have the ability to just consume the content through a responsive web design. So if you don't have the mobile app, you can still come in there and interact with the content.
The key is you don't have to build reports twice. If you built them like Nick has here, when you go on the mobile app and you come into the platform, the system automatically render it for the mobile platform. You never have to build it twice.
Right. Okay. Okay, let's go on to the other, which I again consider a big part of the analytic workflow. And this is now we're doing self-service data modeling, data prep, and enrichment. So in this case here, what we have is a very real scenario, which is we've acquired another company and we're giving a extract of their orders and their discounts from their system until we merge. That's being put on a object store for us that we're reading through our Oracle Autonomous database. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to create a connection to that file, bring it in, and then we're going to blend it in with a couple of data sets that are about, again, the new company we acquired and their employee profile information. So let's go ahead and create a new connection. Let's take this quick opportunity. This is where you saw on the slides, and it's not just slideware, but this is where you can create these native connections. So obviously we're Oracle, so our Oracle stuff is first. But you can see in here, you can, if you're a NetSuite or an EPM customer, you obviously can connect there. But if you're an Amazon customer and you've got, Redshift or Azure Synapse, Google BigQuery, right? And even things like, Salesforce.com and Snowflake, and then things like generic REST connectors. So we're going to go ahead because it's in our autonomous database. I'm going to click that, and we're going to call it, NewCo. In this case here, it's an autonomous database, so it's a matter of just dragging and dropping a file or using other connection techniques. Let's go ahead and save that. Okay, now that we're here, we're in a new design interface. This is where now we're going to create what we call a multi-table data set. So this is really where you start modeling in multiple tables and files, and then you can use that yourself or share that with your colleagues. So in this case here, someone's been giving us a file. It happens to be called NewCo Sales All Products. So let's just go ahead and take that and drag and drop that onto our palette here. And give yourself a little bit of room. So now what's happening is that file's being read. We can come over here. We see the same sort of data enrichment interface. This is a real simple file. So we've got our sales rep number. We can see the products they're selling. We're bringing in discount information because we've heard they maybe aren't being very judicious in their discounts. Perhaps that was part of the, a merger to move more revenue. And then the orders. So what we want to do though is we have the, the sales rep number here, but we want information about the sales rep. So again, part of this newly acquired company, someone else has given us another data set. Now this is a file, so let's go ahead and bring that in. And now we can either add another connection file. I'm going to bring in a file here. And in this case, it's the new company roster. So let's open that up. Again, giving us that preview. Yep, this is the one we want. It's definitely the sheet I want. So now we can go ahead and we can look at information on our new employee roster. So let's go ahead and clean up a couple things here. So this is part of the analytic workflow where, again, folks that do this on a daily basis know that, oftentimes you're given these data sets. They're good, but they might not quite have everything in the correct format that you need in order to do your job. So we can see we have sales rep number, we have the sales rep name, sales rep type. We can also see, though, there's some things in here that, like as an example, not sure why we got it, but, we have social security number. What we can see on the right-hand side, these are our semantic recommendations. So these are the built-in semantic data types that we look for and interrogate. So in this case here, we look at social security numbers and identify that. So if I were just to click on that column, and we understand with social security number, we usually want to obfuscate it or delete it, right? In this case here, let's just delete it because nothing good will come of that. We can come over here and see hire date. And again, because it's hire date, we can go ahead and extract the age in years. So we can go ahead and get the age in years. So how long they've worked for us. And again, we're just touching on some things here. What we will do is we'll have a more detailed data prep and enrichment hour session on the Customer Cloud Connect, where we're going to really go into detail on creating formulas, modifying these columns, doing these things here. Again, now we can come over and look at zip code. This is US focused here, but you can see that, in the US, we do have zip codes that begin with zeros. However, during the extract process that got corrupted, but we understand it's zip code. So we're going to go ahead and repair our zip code. Now we can see that it's repaired. And one of the things we can do with the zip code is we can go ahead and get the city and the state from that zip code. So now you can see we've gone through, these are the steps that are being created to essentially enrich and repair this particular data set. So every time we reload this data set, all these steps are run, and that's not happening inside an Excel spreadsheet. So it's not only auditable, but it's reproducible. And again, like if I leave the organization, Barry can come and pick that up anytime. And then last but not least, we can see some things here where some things are pretty straightforward. It's showing me that I've got about 10% of my values are missing. We happen to know, again, the data, we know that that's other. So let's just go ahead and change that to other. Enter. And one last thing we can do is if we want to look at distance from home, but we want to actually go ahead and create bins on that, the system will come up and say, well, okay, I'll give you 4 different bins. Let's say it's 5. We could change these, and we're going to go ahead and add that step. Okay, so these are all the things we did, right? We deleted the SSS number, did zip code enhancements and repairs, changed education. Now we can go ahead and save this, and we'll call it employee roster. Sorry. Okay. Okay. There we go for getting out of step. So let's come back now and join our 2 data sets. So we can go ahead and put these on top of each other. So we're going to go ahead now, and this is where you start to be able to do more database join type techniques. So when you saw on that first thing where we brought in the on-hold orders, we just did blending. We said, hey, match and match. In this case here, this is where you can do all sorts of, inner joins, outer joins, find the matches, whatnot. We'll stick with an inner. We're going to go ahead and pick our column. We're going to pick sales rep number. So yes, we want to convert it to an attribute. And then again, on the employee roster, sales rep number, and yes. Now we're able to go ahead and join that. We can again now see the information about that data set. And let's go ahead now and save that. And we're just going to call this new code. And say, okay. Okay. And now we can go ahead and create a workbook based on this newly joined data set. And this is where we can go ahead and look at information about, say, our sales rep name and potentially, what they were discounting. Okay, so that is in a very quick view. This is doing some data modeling, self-service, bringing in, data sets from both connections. In this case, was an ADW connection, as well as files that you may be getting from either yourself or other parts of the organization, and then being able to use that for analytics. One of the things that we can do here is, this is a fully collaborative environment. So if I come over here, and let's say on this new code discounts, I actually want to make sure that I can share it with Barry. I can come over here, and I can come over to access. And if I type in Barry, I can go ahead and decide to give Barry read only, read write. Go ahead and save that with him. Okay. We have 9 minutes left. I want to go very quickly into showing you data flows, and at the same time showing you a little bit about machine learning. So if we go ahead and click create data flows, again, data flows are a very powerful capability that's part of, again, the platform. In this case here, we have a data set on attrition. And we're going to use this data set to predict attrition. The way we're going to do that, for folks that don't know machine learning, what we do really quickly is we pick a technique, we create and train a model, and then we go ahead and apply that model, and that's done in sort of 2 steps. But for sake of brevity here, what you can see within the data flow environment, and the data flows are a highly used capability is part of the analytics workflow. Again, it's not just data visualization. And, in our, again, world's largest instance of Oracle Analytics Cloud, we see a lot of usage around data flows. This is really where, Barry's written a blog on this, the, last mile of analytics, where oftentimes you get one or more data sets, you have to do a bunch of things to them. You want to do that in a repeatable process. So in this case here, you can do things like joining, filtering, aggregating. You can do a lot of the manipulation things that we were doing inside of our enrichment panel. And this is also now where you can do things like some of your advanced analytics around time series forecasting, but as well as the machine learning pieces here. And this is where you can decide on the technique. Today, we're going to do a binary classifier because we just want to understand, did someone attrit, which fancy word for did they leave or stay? So we have this data set has both people that have left and stayed. So we're going to go ahead and add that step. Okay. It's going to ask us here, what particular model. We're going to pick naive Bayes. And then we're going to pick a column, which in this case is attrition. There's other things here. Again, if you don't know machine learning, we would cover some more of this, in a more detailed session that we're actually having on December 10th. Is that right, Perry? December 10th? Or sorry, January 10th, 2024. We're going to talk about more of this in depth over a period of time. And then you would go ahead and you would save the model.
And by the way, Nick, for a question that came up in chat asking about generative AI capabilities in OAC, we're not going to cover that today. But in that session you just mentioned, the upcoming AI/ML for OAC session, we will talk a little bit about Gen AI and some of the newer kind of ML capabilities that you expect.
Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and do this. We are running out of time. And we'll just call it that. And we go ahead and that data flow now is running against that data set. It's creating that model. Let's go ahead and that'll run asynchronously. The other thing I want to show you while we have our last minutes here is Barry had showed you a lot about some of these AI things. So what you can see here is not only do we have the machine learning capabilities, and again, on January 10th, 2024, we're going to cover some of these other integrations with our Oracle Cloud Infrastructure platform that we're cloud native to that. So we have integrated natively with, the Oracle database machine learning models. So if you're an Oracle database company or customer, all of those machine learning models we have can be incorporated and used within Oracle Analytics platform. Document understanding, that was where you saw the passports. Again, you can do some things there. Functions is a capability where you can use a serverless technology to run, whatever sort of, Python or Java program you need to process some data. You can use language, again, for language interpretation. And then, of course, vision for doing things like vision recognition and understanding objects and bounding boxes within particular images. So that leaves us 5 minutes. I will stop here. Like I said, on January 10th, we will go in depth on all of these capabilities and a little bit more around data flows and how that supports machine learning. So I'll stop there and we'll pause for questions. Okay, no more questions? Then thank you for taking time out of your busy day today to understand and discover the Oracle Analytics Cloud capability and our support for the entire analytics workflow.
And keep an eye out on our LinkedIn channel where we will be promoting these events. So if you want to stay up with what's coming next, we'll do it there, as well as on the customer community portal where you can find more there too. Here's a question for you, Nick. Is OAC available under the free tier?
It is not. Now, that being said, there's two there are two things you can do. One is you can sign up for a 30-day free trial that has some very generous credits for OCI capabilities and use OAC within that time frame. The second is, and if you want to bring that slide back up, everything you saw here except the semantic layer, which was that pre-curated thing, are available in the professional edition. So for $162.32, $162.30 a month, you get 10 named users of professional edition, and you can use any of the capabilities. There's no limits on, oh, you only can have only 5 data sets or whatever. You can have as much as your storage can handle it. You have your 10 named users. You can use it across whatever devices.
And there's no commitment.
Yeah, and no commitment.
So it's, I mean, for spinning something up, for most companies, $162.30 is less than your coffee budget. So you could definitely give it a go.
So yeah, 30 days, $162 a month. And then if it's just purely for educational purposes, we do have something called Oracle Analytics Desktop as well. It is not cloud, it's just a desktop a version with many of these capabilities.
Oh, so we've got another question here, which is asking, is there any way that community users can interact with Oracle to test functionality, recommendations, contribute to the documentation, submit work product, and feature requests and so forth? So yes, 100%. We have an Oracle Analytics Cloud community, customer community, where you can go in, and it's like a kind of a chat board interface where you can post your recommendations, suggestions for new features. And the way that our development looks at them is, if other people in the community vote them up, the most top voted features will get built into the product. So you can go into that community, look at the features that have already been created, vote on them, vote them up, vote them down, comment on them, make an additional suggestion. And yes, we do very much listen to public input like that. And Blair has put that link for the customer cloud community into the chat. Otherwise, I think we're done. This is the 9 a.m. So thank you for your time. Again, I'd like to say, keep an eye out for our future presentations. The next one is going to be AI/ML for Oracle Analytics. And thank you for your time today. I'll hand it back to you, Steve.